Turkey's embattled Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan has been the most popular leader among Muslims because he was the only Muslim leader who could openly confront Israel and who led a modern and democratic nation. Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan described Israel as a child-killing, terrorist state. He said, "Israel is a state of occupation that uses terror against the Palestinians." In 2017, when Trump recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, Erdogan vowed to use all means to fight against the U.S. recognition of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. He said, "We will not abandon Jerusalem to the mercy of a state that kills children." When the UAE recognized Israel, Erdogan threatened UAE to cut off diplomatic relations and recall Turkey's ambassador from the UAE, while Turkey itself maintains normal relations with Israel where it has an embassy, and Israel has an embassy in Ankara and consulate general in Istanbul. You can say that this has nothing to do with Erdogan, as the embassy and consulate general was running in Turkey before the advent of Erdogan. Okay. Bilateral trade between Turkey and Israel was $5.5 billion in 2019, making Turkey the sixth largest trade partner of Israel. Turkey's exports to Israel seem not to have been affected by the pandemic. During the first 9 months of 2020, Turkey's exports to Israel amounted to $3.2 billion, almost the same as last year's export volume in the same period. Even Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu made fun of Erdogan on his dual standards. Netanyahu said, "Once Turkish President Erdogan used to call me Hitler every 3 hours, now it's every 6 hours, but thank God the trade between Israel and Turkey is up." Turkey has been accused of deporting Uyghur Muslims back to China via third countries that neighbor the western Chinese province of Xinjiang, where hundreds of thousands are said to be held in concentration camps. Uyghur is an ethnic Muslim community living in the Chinese province of Xinjiang. The Chinese government is oppressing Uyghurs for years. Want to know about Uyghurs and how China is oppressing them? We have already made a video on it. You can watch it by clicking the link in the I button. Ankara denies that it has deported Uyghur Muslims to China, but activists fear that Turkey has sent them back via third countries such as Tajikistan, where it is easier for Beijing to secure their extradition. Erdogan calls Israel a terrorist state, while he himself is bombarding Kurds. Kurds are an ethnic group living in the region of Iraq, Iran, Syria, and Turkey. Kurds want to establish a separate country which they call Kurdistan. The European Court of Human Rights and many other international human rights organizations have condemned Turkey for thousands of human rights abuses against Kurds. The conflict has cost the economy of Turkey an estimated $300 to $450 billion, mostly military costs. On the 25th of December 2020, Al Jazeera posted that Turkish president wants to bring ties to a better point, but says Israel's policy towards Palestinians is unacceptable. Washington sees Turkey as a threatening country that caused damage to NATO by purchasing Russian S-400 anti-aircraft systems, as well as by taking control of territories in Syria and hurting the Kurdish minority. Turkey is a NATO member while purchasing advanced missiles from Russia, which violates NATO policies. Amazingly, Erdogan is simultaneously the good friend of both Trump and Putin. The European Union is considering imposing sanctions on Ankara for its oil and gas exploration in the eastern Mediterranean, over which Greece and Cyprus claim sovereignty. In recent years, Turkey's GDP fell devastatingly. Since 2013, Turkey's GDP is continuously on a decline. In 2013, its GDP was $957.8 billion, which fell to around $650 billion in 2020. Erdogan and its supporters justify all this by calling it smart playing. It is up to you to decide whether it is smart playing or hypocrisy. Links to all the information used in the video is provided in the description.